Hi everyone, it's Chris from Sidephone, and today we're going to be talking about keypads and all the beautiful things that you can do with them. What I have here in front of me is a Sidephone prototype, and you can see that the keypad does in fact remove, just like this. It does click, and when the device is first received, it's going to appear similar to this right here. The keypad's going to be off to the side, and then the phone will be to the left. And one of the first things we recommend everyone does with any keypad that's purchased is customize it to your unique workflow. We understand that everyone would like to use the device a little bit differently. Everyone's got different styles, and we're open, and we've built the device in a way that can accommodate that. And I'll show you just what I mean in a moment here. So if I was to take this keypad and add it to the device here, if I was to turn on Sidephone just like this and get into the device, the keypad does in fact work. You can see I can type 2, I could type 5, I could type 8, I could type 5 again, and I'm going to stay silent for just a moment so you can actually hear what the clicking sounds like. Now, if I was to remove the keypad, well, I'll delete some of these items here. If I was to remove the keypad and I was to add it back in again, you can see that it is in fact working again. So this isn't anything new. This is actually what we demoed exactly, I think about 3-4 months ago. So this behavior, this has existed since we had our very first prototypes. So what have we done since then? Where's the exciting functionality? Well, what we've added in settings is the ability for you to customize the keypad however you like, to create different key maps, to create different functions, automations, and they're all triggered off of this keypad. Imagine a keypad sort of like a blank canvas. It's physical buttons that you can choose the purpose of. And that goes with any keypad. That goes with a more a QWERTY style input that you see off to the right here. That goes with a sundial, which you see off to the left, and that could be used for, say, for example, a D-pad navigation. That could be used for music controls. All of the different tiles, all the different keypads are arrangements of buttons that you can program to do whatever you'd like. And we're going to go through some examples right here of how I typically like to use it. This might be a bit quirky, this might be a weird use case, but you know, when I use my personal device, one of the things that is a constant frustration for me is this sort of huge app list that I have to go through to find the things that I'm looking for. And oftentimes, the only things that I'm looking for are a selection of 5 to 7 apps. And what I've done on my personal Sidephone is I've configured the T9 style keypad here to launch apps. That's the way that I love to use it. I like to see this, to me, as sort of a physical representation of my app screen. And that's a little bit bizarre. I'm sure someone would look at that implementation and say, that is not the way to do it. It has to be a traditional T9, and other people may just want it to be a number pad. The point is, they're keypads, and you can map them however which way you'd like. And I'm going to show us an example of what I would do in my own personal use case. I would do say for example, a new key map here. And the first step, it's very simple here, the way to do it. The first step is to record a trigger. So we can, for example, let's do 2. I pressed button 2. And now I can configure all these different settings in terms of how to activate it. So say, for example, I do a short press, maybe that launches the app, but maybe I want it to be a bit more intentional. Maybe only if I long press a button does it launch the app. Or maybe only if I double press it. And then there's also the record button. It's very cool because what I could have done instead is I could have typed 2 and almost create this sort of secret combination where if I press 2 buttons at the same time, then it performs an action. So you can start to see how Sidephone, with all of the different keypads and attachments, it becomes this sort of world, this ecosystem, this return to tactility, physical buttons, and Sidephone basically becomes this sort of macro phone where you can do whatever you'd like with these inputs. And I think that as we start to ship the devices very soon, what we're going to start to see is the community start to build new apps, new abilities to extend this functionality beyond what we even imagined. So it's very important to us that as we grow as a project, that we're releasing how to make tiles, even possibly sharing some information on how we've built these ones, so that you are able to explore and create your very own tiles, and that would be, I think, really, really exciting. So I'm going to put this in. I'm going to open it up again, and I stopped it mid-process, so maybe it didn't connect, but okay, here, yeah, it's good to go. So what I'm going to do is say long press. Let's make it a little bit more intentional. Let's say long press, and I have to set an action. So that's the trigger. The next step is the action. Tons of different options here. You can make it, of course, be used as sort of like a keypad with text input and all that. I want it to launch an app, so I'm going to click this. I'm going to ignore this warning, and I'm going to say, let's launch the internet. Sure, I've got an internet browser here. Let's do that. And you can also add constraints as well. So say, for example, you only want that to work in certain situations, you can add that as well. And then there are some options for the mapping as well. So tons of functionality there, and you can see it's all just beautifully laid out. In my opinion, it makes perfect use of the screen here, and it doesn't feel like I needed to have a larger screen. And that sort of goes for the whole entire product experience that I've had so far. Using this device, it sort of made me realize that we don't need to carry 6-inch screens at every point in time. There is so much capability that you can pack into a 3-inch or less screen, and we've done just that. We've tried to use this as by having a constraint of saying, hey, we're going to make our OS 3 inches or less and make that our maximum that we make. We've created some what I think are really, really cool workflows and app experiences. So anyways, gonna confirm that there, and let's try it out. So it looks like this is all set. I've configured that when I long press 2, it opens the browser. So if I'm on the main screen here, if I long press 2, I'd expect that it would open the browser. And again, my other buttons, just to show you, if I press the volume keys on the side, they're still configured for the volume keys, although I could remap those as well. And I could say that that would instead increase or decrease the brightness, which is very valuable if you're outside. And then, of course, the power button will shut off the screen. But let's say, for example, I long press 2. I'm going to do this very carefully so you can see there's no tricks. Long press 2, and there we go. It's opened the browser. And this is how I configure my phone. I configure it so that when I enter my phone, if I want to use the voice recorder, boom, I press a button and it's there. If I want to use the internet browser, if I want to open up Uber, for example, I do another option. And now what that's done is, it seems possibly a bit insignificant to some of you, but for me, this saves so much time. This is just, I go into the phone with an intention and I make it happen, and it's the most beautiful thing in my opinion. So that's how I've configured it. But I understand that some people would like to use more of a traditional T9 experience. So let's go through that as well. What I've downloaded here is a traditional T9 app, and I believe there are a few different options, but this one seems to have been one of the most popular ones. So to do this, what we're gonna have to do is we are going to have to set up the default keypad. We're gonna have to change the default keypad rather. So we have to go to select default keypad, and instead of this here, the Android keyboard, we need to go to traditional T9. So once I've done that, it should have switched over to now using the app as the keyboard. And if I go to something like messages here, I could start a message. And if I start typing on the keypad, it would start functioning as the traditional T9. So it's actually kind of funny. We don't have any letters on the keypad, but I've only used traditional T9 for like probably an hour. I was exploring it. I was looking at what it could do, making sure, of course, it works. And just in that short time of typing various things, I started to get more used to where the letters are, what I can expect. And I believe that if you start using traditional T9 for, say, for example, a day, a week, you won't need the letters. It would almost be like magic in terms of how you type. Someone may look over, see you typing the screen, seeing letters appear, and be very confused as to how it's happening, but it makes sense. It's intuitive. It's physical buttons, so you're able to do that intuitively. Now, let's try an example. So I'm gonna start typing here, and you can see I typed 6, which corresponds to M and O. Let's say I want to type, for example, well, first let's do some of the symbols and all that. So bottom left-hand corner is where I could select if it's going to be all caps, if it's going to be camel case, if it's going to be lowercase. I can make it lowercase, sure, no problem. In fact, I can actually see that here. If I type the bottom corner there, it will go all lowercase. I believe this is camel case, and then this is all caps. So let's do all lowercase, no problem there. And then the other option here, if I press pound, it will switch between sort of keypads or styles. So here is A, B, C, E, N. This is the T9 experience that I had been used to growing up. This is where you press a key and it cycles through each option. So say, for example, I press M, then it would cycle through to the next one, and you have to select each one to go to the next. So that's one style, but there's no predictive text in this situation. Then the other one is predictive text. So if we go to English here, it'll start doing some predictive things. And let's say, for example, we wanted to type the letter or the word more. Well, I know that 6 corresponds to, on a traditional T9 keypad, I know that it corresponds to M, N, and O. And I know that the R is actually in the 7 here. So, and if I wanted to finish things off with an E, I know that that is typically where the 3 is. So let me try and type more. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type 6 twice, I'm gonna type 7 once, I'm gonna type 3 once. And that's more. Because that is, the algorithm behind the scenes basically knows that that is the intent that you had by typing these buttons in this sequence. It's very bizarre, and if you were to look at the screen when you do it, it doesn't make sense. It's very, very odd. If you were to say, for example, I'm gonna do it slowly here. I'm gonna type 6 once, 6 twice, it says on. I type 7, it says nor. Only after I press 3 does it say more. It's very, very odd and bizarre, but you can see that it does in fact work, and I can go ahead and skip to the next letter as well. So that's basically the experience of the T9. And you can see here too that when you put a specific keypad style inside, and say, for example, you want to use this as your letters, you're not burdened with a pop-up keypad on the screen as well. It just sits there at the bottom, and it gives you a nice little navigation to do things like add symbols, to do settings, copy and paste. Very, very, very useful there to have. You can always switch the keypad input. Say, for example, you needed to do something that required the traditional one, you can switch over in just a click. The button is right there. So that's it for the demo here today. I'm hoping this excites a lot of people, not just because, of course, the functionality that we've shown here today, but the potential, the opportunity. And one of the things we've done since day one of the project is we've built everything in the open. And there's good things and there's bad things about that. The good things are it's ultimate transparency. If something doesn't work, we're the first ones to let everyone know. And we tell everyone that there's more work that we could be doing. And the downside of that is expectations. There's, I hate to be someone that says, we're a small team, give us grace. There are certain things that we need to do. And when we're shipping a product, certain expectations. But I think there's a very beautiful thing that we could build together with Sidephone. And I think that the next few months to really make it happen, it'll require collaboration from everyone, and it'll require a little bit of grace as we make mistakes and we learn from things. For example, this whole adventure of creating content, just like I'm doing here today, this isn't something that comes naturally for Sebastian and I. We're builders, we're inventors. We put our heads down, we build things. And this month we made a promise to ourselves to try and go out of our comfort zones, create some content to show that what we've done and what we've put together is real. And I hope it comes across authentic, it's genuine, and I hope you're just as excited for the product as we are. We use these devices daily. This is why we built it. We built it for ourselves, for our friends. We built it for all the things that we thought mobile tech needed. And I think a lot of you are gonna be really, really excited by what it could do.